everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool Transfer Show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Yesterday, we did an emergency meeting as we received breaking news that Alexander Isak has pretty much broken his leg. We've got further update today, which we'll talk about later in the show. Plus, there's been a few rumors circulating in regards to players coming in, so we can discuss that later on today. I have no idea what just happened there. Okay, so let's start with the first sort of discussion today, and that's regarding Isak. So, the update is that he underwent surgery today, which was successful on an ankle injury, but it also included a fibular fracture. So that is quite severe. No sort of definitive timescale on the return, but expectations that he will play some part again this season. And Isak's rehabilitation will now continue at the Access Training Center, but no time frame yet placed on his return. So my thoughts on that. Well, firstly, it's great news that he has picked up, you know, he has sorry, not picked up, he has, undergone a successful surgery. Because that's always a bit of a nervy moment for a player. But thankfully, he's able to focus on his rehab now in terms of what's expected. Of course, he'll probably get further updates and further results as the days go on. But it's still a bit of a concern that it's a fibular fracture. Um, I'm sure we'll get further update in the coming days, maybe even weeks, in terms of the impact of the injury, but also the return date. For me personally, I don't think he'll be available until April. That would be my guess. I would say 3-4 months. And even if he was technically fully fit during that period, I don't think he'll be match fit at the time. So he might make a couple cameos here towards the stage of the season, but I feel like it may be a thing where this season is a write-off for Alexander Isak, and Liverpool have to move on and focus on the current squad and possibly make some additions in the January window. Whether you agree on that or not, only time will tell. I feel like there was always a decision from the club to sign another attacker, probably more of a forward than a striker. But that is definitely something I feel like the club will be heading towards. Um, but one thing I did wanted to make a point on, and that's in regards to our medical team. Why on earth did they allow Alexander Isak to walk off the pitch? Now, of course, at that time, we don't know in terms of what they thought the injury was, whether they assessed it and realized that it is a leg break or it's a slight knock or it's a sprain. We don't know. But whenever it comes to an ankle injury, it was quite clear he was in severe pain, and it looked like, you know, nothing was snapped off. Of course, that would have been crazy if you walked over with a snapped leg. But you could tell that there was something wrong in terms of his reaction. The best thing to do in that situation is to fall for a stretcher, bring it onto the pitch, and carry him off. There was no need for him to walk. Now, for all we know, he may have aggravated that injury even further because he put more weight on it at a time where, the wounds are quite fresh, and, he may have, like, because remember, it says the report that was released by Paul Joyce today said it was an ankle injury and it included a fibular fracture. So maybe by putting more pressure on it, he's just damaged more ligaments, or he's damaged the bone even further. So I have to say I'm quite shocked. I was beyond disbelief when I saw it that he walked off the pitch. Of course, at the time you thought maybe it's not as bad as we first thought. Maybe it's just a slight knock, and they're being a bit cautious, and they thought it was best for him to get off the pitch and see what they can do after the game. But once we heard reports yesterday that it's a potential leg break, yeah, it makes us look even silly, doesn't it? So I was quite surprised in terms of the treatment there. Um, yeah, very, very disappointing for my medics. They should know better. Simple as that. And it was quite worrying where it could have a huge impact on his season now, unfortunately. So yeah, medic team needs to do better. That is not unacceptable in my book. Before we speak on to the next rumor or next story, I should say, let's go through the comments. Ozan said, "Yo, Ozzy, big up Ozan. I hope you're well." He said, "Did you see Mo Salah's winner tonight?" Yes, I did. We'll speak about that later in the show. Definitely have to mention a sort of a Salah update during the time when he's in AFCON. I might even do some watch alongs. So that's something I'm planning on possibly doing in the future if I'm available. So yeah, maybe look out for that. We'll do some watch alongs watching Mohamed Salah. Hopefully, he can go on to win on the trophy and yeah, rub it on certain people's faces. I'm sure you know who I'm referring to. Boss Aussie brother, how are you feeling today? Pretty much better. I don't know what happened. I feel like I inhaled dust or something, and then my throat just went early in the show. But I'm all good. I'm doing better now. But yes, I hope you're doing well as well. Ozzy said it's safe to say man's out for the season. Ozzy, I would say so. Technically they will say to you that he will finish his rehab by April, and he could be available in May. I don't think we have a lot of fixtures in May. Let me quickly have a look. But even so, mm, uh, let's be honest, we have been making excuse. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but we have been saying it as fans that Isak didn't have preseason. He's still getting accustomed to training. He's lacking match fitness. We've been speaking about this for like a good few months, and he still really hasn't found his match fitness. So with that said, if he's fully fit by early parts of May, we've got four fixtures. We've got United away, we've got Chelsea home, Aston Villa away, and then Brentford at home. So if you're looking at those fixtures, I'm not expecting him to be involved, if I'm being honest with you. Um, and if he's just coming off a long layoff like that, I would say the best thing to do is let him just continue his rehabilitation. And even if he's match fit, just continue to train until the end of the season. Have a good holiday. And once you come back after your holiday, come back for preseason, and then we'll give you a proper preseason next summer. And from there onwards, that's when you can start showing your true value and not rushing back. I don't feel like that's necessary, if I'm being honest with you. And some will say, well, that's a bit outrageous to say. He's your most expensive signing, not even our signing, most expensive signing in the Premier League of £125 million. Why would you just disregard him and not want him back so soon? The thing is, you've got to look at the context of the situation. He's had a few knocks this season. He's not found the form. So because of that, I don't feel like we've been over reliant on him. We haven't overused him this season as well. So now that he's unavailable, I just feel like we have to look internally and see what solutions we can come up with. The obvious solution would be, Gakpo can play up top as an option. Chiesa should be getting more games and should be a strong contender to replace Isak in terms of his minutes. Whether that is something that's going to happen remains to be seen because clearly there is an agenda between the coach and the player. And we also got Jayden Downs who's returning from injury. He suffered a hamstring injury, so he should be back in training very soon. So that's another player that we can use maybe as an understudy for Ekatike for the foreseeable future. So we've got a few attacking options there. Plus, you've got um, the likes of Rio who could play in that role if need be. We've got the young striker as well that we signed from Salford City. If we needed to bring someone from the youth ranks to cover some ground or provide some depth on the bench, for example. So there's options there. I still feel like we need to sign one attacker, an attacker like a Semenyo, like that type of player who can come in and play across the line. I think that would be a wise decision. I would think it would be a wise signing from Liverpool. Uh, whether that happens or not, it remains to be seen. We're 1 week away from the window opening, so hopefully we'll get some news in the coming days. As I said, bro, I guess the Isak Gate transfer saga really hampered him. Possibly cursed this season. Yeah, in terms of the pursuit, there was parts where as you can probably tell during the summer, I was very confident I would sign him, but I didn't realize it would escalate until the last week in August, and that's never ideal because it's different if the player's training with his current team and he's in preseason and he's fully up to speed to start the season. He went AWOL. He refused to train. He didn't travel into preseason when they went to Asia, so he barely had any training. Yes, he had a bit of personal training at his former club in Real Sociedad, but in general terms, he didn't really have much of a preseason, and that really hampered his progress and inclusion to the team. And because of that, he was playing catch up where everyone else was fully up to speed. He was nowhere near it. And once he played, didn't look up to speed in terms of forming a chemistry with the team because, of course, he's not played with them. Tactically, I think Slot never helped in regards to different formations and different systems. So it's just been a bit all over the place this season, unfortunately, for Isak. So the best thing to do is just label this as a write off. I know that doesn't seem nice to say out loud, but it is a reality. And for him, he needs to focus on getting back to full fitness, make sure that he's stronger than ever, and next season is his time to shine. That's the best way to look at it. That's the most positive way to look at it for him. And next season, hopefully, he gets a full preseason workout, and then he'll be able to be effective for Liverpool next season. But until now, we will have to find our own solutions. I think we have some options internally, but I would still like another attacker to be signed in January. Ozan says, and no World Cup for him as well. Unlucky. Yeah, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I've not really, looked at it too deep, but I believe Sweden still have an outside chance. Correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, to qualify for the World Cup based on I'm not exactly sure what happened to be fair. But I thought they lost. Someone mentioned in the chat the other day that they still have a chance. So I don't know um what is the case. But hey, even if they do qualify for the World Cup, um, I hope they wouldn't select him, but you just never know. National teams always go for the best players, even if they've just returned from injury. So we'll see. But I think for him, his focus should be on returning back to full fitness and being sharper next season. Obviously, man has just to recover, mentally refresh, and come back 100% for preseason. I agree. That is definitely the approach that he should be taking. Bo says, did you see the scummy Arsenal signing feed the scouts away at Everton and Aussie? Yeah, I saw. I didn't watch the game, but I saw images of that, and I think Everton put the logo of the charity that helps with the homes in Liverpool on the board there. Yeah, that's just disgusting behavior. I think there's certain things in football that are banter. That is not something to joke around about, in my opinion, especially during a time in the country where cost of living is very high. People are struggling with employment, going through tough times, especially with it being end of the year and Christmas. Struggling to you know provide presents for their kids, and so these things you don't joke around with. So yeah, I didn't kind of like that kind of behavior um, from the Arsenal fans, but it's always a small minority. I won't say that is how Arsenal fans are. There's always a small minority, but unfortunately, they don't have enough brain cells to know what's right and what's wrong. Unfortunately, well, so that is why they just can't win the league. Yeah, of course, that doesn't help. For me, it's more of from their point of view that they will be absolutely shameless about it. Like Liverpool have always been a team where when we've won cups and titles, I feel like we've been sort of boasting about it, but not shamelessly like that. You'll never hear the end of this if they were to win the league title this season, and they'll just glorify it further than what it is, to be honest with you. So for me, it can't happen. Um, but look, still a long way to go. Still a long. I'm not saying we're going to win it. I'm still saying there's a long way to go. Anything can happen. There's a lot of teams behind Arsenal, like your Man Cities and Chelsea as well, although they're a bit further away now, but they are still in the mix to challenge for that league title. So it's not a foregone conclusion. There's a lot of work for them to do, to win the Premier League title. So let's see what happens. Both have a chance through Nations League play. Yes, I think you mentioned it, Bo. Those games will be played in March. If that's the case, not gonna lie, that would be a little bit disappointing. Not, of course, for Sweden, it would be a great achievement. It would be a nice moment for the nation, but from a selfish and a slightly hypocritical point of view, I don't want Isak playing for his national team in the World Cup because I feel like his focus should be on getting back to full fitness, and whether that delays his rehab to another couple months, so be it. Once he returns to preseason training, that's when I know he's raring to go and he's fully fit and the shackles are off. That's how I want it to be. So we'll see, what happens in terms of Isak and the near future. Also weird how I asked Arsenal about their Champions League trophies and they get real silent. Yeah, they seem to want to change the topic very, very quickly when that is raised. Even the noisy neighbours have more European trophies than them. So yeah, bit of a shameless um, I'll say moment for Arsenal fans there. But let's move on and we'll talk about this fella. Now, today it was revealed that Divock Origi uh, is now available as a free agent from January as he's just signed his contract termination at AC Milan. The 30-year-old striker has been out of the team and has pretty much trained with the reserves for the past 12 months. Um, and things just haven't gone well for him. So my question to you guys is, would you consider bringing back Origi as a short-term solution for Isak, who we know is not available for the next few months? Me personally, as much as I've appreciated Divock Origi's clutch moments over the years for Liverpool Football Club, I don't think it's a smart decision to bring him back for a couple of reasons. For me, number one, he hasn't really played first team football for the last 12 or so months. So he's clearly not fully fit to play high level football. It's sort of different when you're playing reserves. It's completely different playing the professional game or playing, at the highest level. And he hasn't done that, so he wouldn't be match fit. I don't know what sort of shape he is in right now. Is he a player lost a bit of speed? Is he overweight? I have no idea. I've not really seen him at AC Milan, and I'm sure a lot of fans haven't seen him play as well because he plays for the reserve. So, so for me, I'll assume he'd be unfit right now, um, and therefore that's not a viable option for Liverpool. Of course, it would be nice. It would be have that sort of romantic kind of feeling about it, but no, I think the ship has sailed, and that is not a viable option. Um, Boss is gonna stream from Aussie at some point. Would love that. Is that as in you want to stream with me? Yeah, if you've got a channel, I'd be happy to do a stream if that's what is that what you if that's what you mean there. Um, okay. So that's my take on Origi. So feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. I don't think that's a viable option, but the news broke today, so I thought uh, I'll raise it based on him being a cult hero for us over the years. Now we've got to talk about Semenyo. This is a rumor that's not going to stop rumbling until we get a conclusion. And the current rumor today, yesterday it was, based on Man City and Manchester United showing more interest. Today, the rumor has switched and it says that Semenyo favors a move to Liverpool over Man City and Manchester United if he decides to leave Bournemouth in January. Arne Slot is intent on acquiring Semenyo to be the successor to Mohamed Salah. But City have also made contact with the player and his representative. So my thoughts on this rumor. You guys know in terms of how much I rate Semenyo, I think he would be a fantastic addition to the team. Some fans will say, it's not wise to just keep signing players and thinking that's the answer. But I believe we have a gap in our squad. I believe we have not replaced Luis Diaz. And now that we've got an injured player in Alexander Isak, we need two players to be, filled in terms of squad numbers. So why not just sign one player in Semenyo who is a quality player that can play on the left, can play on the right, but can also play up top in replacing Isak and his minutes and his numbers this season. So for me, an attacker would be a smart signing to do, in my opinion. And look, let's look at how Liverpool have been over the last year or so. He's clearly a player that Liverpool admire based on our sporting director in Richard Hughes. Of course, he's the one that brought him to the club. We've previously considered signing him before he signed that contract extension this summer gone. And Liverpool, let's be honest, have a history of reacting to moments in the January window where they match deals um, for players that they hold interest in. And the idea was probably to sign him in summer, but they've had to push it back and sign him 6 months earlier than planned, as seen with Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo over the years. And with Isak's injury, now a big talking point, it's a big factor right now. I personally wouldn't be surprised if there are internal discussions to decide what's the next move. Do we prepare a bid in the coming weeks? I think that's something that has been discussed. So we'll soon find out. We're 23rd of December today. So I'm sure we will know if there is going to be a new signing coming up in the January window. Bo says football manager. In terms of Semenyo joining, I don't want to quite call it football manager. That's me saying you're going to back to sign five players. Semenyo's not been a sort of a hidden secret. A lot of clubs are looking at him right now. I personally think he will be on the move in January. Whether it's Liverpool or not, my gut feeling is saying yes. I think we will sign. I've been saying it for a few months now. Um, but there's easily an argument that he could join his boyhood club, which is Arsenal. He could easily join a team like Man City, who would, need a player like him, especially if they are willing to sell Savinho, but they're also willing to loan out Oscar Bob. That's the recent rumor as well. So they have to make space for a player like Semenyo. So he's definitely a player on the move. So it's not quite football manager for me. But I would say is I would like us to sign two players. I would like us to sign an attacker like Semenyo. Uh, and if it's not Semenyo and we don't feel like our profile is available in January, it won't happen. But what I will say is that the centre back position has to be addressed, in my opinion. But yeah, that's something um, we can discuss. The rumors have kind of gone a bit quiet in regards to centre backs, which I find a little bit concerning. But I'm hoping that could be a good thing because Liverpool like to move in silent, and then boom, out of nowhere, we've just made a new signing out of the blue. So I'm hoping that's what happens, but only time will tell. Bo says no, no. But are you at some point gonna stream? Oh, so that's what you meant with FM. Apologies. I thought you meant something else. Okay, Football Manager. It's something I could do. To be fair, I haven't played Football Manager in years. I used to love playing it growing up. Back then, I'm going to reveal my age now. It used to be called Championship Manager. So, um, no, it's not something I've done in recent time. Maybe I'll look into it. To be fair, I do normally do FC 26 shows. I did start one early in the season where um I was trying to rebuild Liverpool and hopefully sign the players that I think we should have signed in the summer and see how they progress in the season. I've only done two episodes, so maybe that's something I can continue this week as we don't have any midweek fixtures. Of course, with Christmas coming, it might be a little bit tricky, but I'll try and um, if I can have some free time and do some FC 26 shows. And you never know. It's something I'll make a note of now in terms of potential. Not of it now, to be fair. Potential shows in the future. Um, so football manager. So yeah, maybe something we can consider in the near future. But yeah, we'll have to get used to it a little bit because Yeah, it's been a while since I played Football Manager, to be fair. What I was gonna say, Ozzy, what's the closest club near your home? Palace? Yes, Crystal Palace would be the nearest club to where I live. So maybe I'll do a Crystal Palace stream. Although I feel like with Crystal Palace, they mugged us off the Mark Gay one. So my so a- so attitude towards him is a bit off, if I'm being honest with you. But maybe something we can look into doing, especially with the FC 26 stuff. So I could try and complete the Liverpool mode, and then once that's done, we can just do random teams. That's quite fun to do as well, to be fair. So yeah, maybe if that's the type of content you guys want to see, um, yeah, I'll definitely try and do that. To be fair, um, but also personally, I am a fan of Lucky. I reckon, so I don't even know who he is. No, Lucky's been on the bench for the last 2, 3 games, so he definitely knows who he is. So yeah, he knows. He's aware of him. I just don't think he's brought him into a squad to be utilized. I think he's just brought him in to basically fill the numbers, just because we're lacking centre back options in our squad. So no, he definitely knows who he is. I just hope we use him correctly if he is to be played, and not just throw him in the deep end, because that's what's happened with some of our young players, unfortunately. Boston away day game at Selhurst Park vlog. Do you know what I was planning on doing? I was planning on buying tickets for the game against Crystal Palace. We played them quite recently, didn't we? But I wasn't able to get tickets. So next time Liverpool are in town. In fact, I actually that day, when did we play them? We played them quite a while back, didn't we? Um, we played them. It was very early in September, 27th of September. Yes, so I actually saw the team bus um, driving past my area, because they have to go through my area in order to get to the stadium. So yeah, that's something I was like, "Oh, I wish I could have watched the game," but then again, we lost. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise right now. Uh, Mateus says, "Are you live now?" Yes, I'm live and kicking right now. So feel free to drop a comment, and yeah, I'll try and get your comments live on the show. And thank you for tuning in as well. But also, exactly, and Stock needs to use those good youth players when they deserve it. Definitely agree. That's something Klopp used to do a lot. Whenever they feel like a young player deserves an opportunity, even if it's a brief appearance, last 20 minutes of a game, or a rare start in a top game, you still gotta try and reward your young players, especially if they made great progress in training, and then give them that incentive to work hard. And if they continue with their development, continue to commit themselves to the professional game, they will make it far. So it's all about motivation. But I don't know if this man manager, or should I say, this manager has any man management skills, or if he has the motivation skills to uplift players. I haven't seen it personally, and if he does, I feel like he lacks it. To be fair, Mateus says Semenyo will come to Man United, and they will have Cunha and Bruno. Semenyo is over for the ops. Semenyo as a striker, okay, or would you put Cunha as a striker? Let me know in the comments. Um, what about Sesko? Because there's a lot of big talk about Sesko being that guy when United signed him, but he's gone MIA for me. So I don't know. If Semenyo was to move to United, I would find that a bit of a backward move, if I'm being honest with you. Um, I actually think the better option would be for him to stay at Bournemouth until the end of the season. Hmm. And if the United project appeals to him, then he can do what he needs to do. But if he is to move on, it's to go somewhere, be an improvement to that team, and help that team go forward. With United, apparently before the game against Villa, they hadn't lost in a couple of months, but they were still below us. So it just shows you that you can say these things, but if the numbers don't match, they just don't match. And Liverpool have been absolutely diabolical. And I'm a Liverpool fan. I'll tell you straight, we've been diabolical this season, but we're still above United. So yeah, that shows you something in that regards. Bo, I think this is chucks into that comment. Bo says, "Top style Morgan away at Spurs." Even yeah, That's the that's the game where he played it, but there's so many players that Klopp has brought into the team, and maybe they haven't had the careers that they expected, or they haven't been around the Liverpool team as such. But he gave them hope, he gave them belief, and they gave them moments that they will cherish for the rest of their lives and careers. And you can't put a price on that. So they'll probably know they weren't good enough to play week in, week out, but at least they had a coach that gave them, you know, a moment that was probably, something they dreamt about, as they were little kids. So you gotta respect that. That's the human touch there when it comes to being a coach or a manager of a football club. Matthias said, "What team do you support, mate? We are the biggest club in England. Some might argue the world. We will win the EPL before Arsenal." I'm assuming you're a United fan based on your previous comment. I support Liverpool. So in terms of the biggest club in England, if you're talking about success, we've matched you in terms of league titles. In terms of other stuff like revenue and that stuff, yeah, you're probably a little bit ahead of us in that regard from a business point of view. Um, but on the football pitch, no, nowhere near us, in my opinion. Boss, do you remember Klopp used to show up at the academy games? So I've never done that once. That's interesting. I didn't know if Slot's done that or not. But yes, Klopp did that from time to time, and I quite like that. To be fair, um, yeah, it just shows you that the youth side is not something of his focus, and he's strictly focused on the first team. I'm just thinking, he's his job title is first team coach, right? Does he have a say in terms of what young players come through? Maybe I'm being a bit silly here. Like if there's an up and coming young player, maybe the likes of Richard Hughes will be the one that promotes them or says to slot that, look, we've got this player and we're gonna include him to the first team training, and then you can check him out, then you can decide if you want to use him or not. Because that is his job title. He is a first team coach, so he might not be involved in those other affairs. Whereas Jurgen Klopp, he was the manager. So when you're the manager, you have a lot more of a bigger responsibility. You are involved in the youth development, the youth structure. You're involved in outside projects like the Liverpool Foundation. Like he was heavily involved in that sort of stuff. Maybe this coaching answer is just focused on his first thing. I think that is his job. He doesn't need to think about the youth academy or signing young players that's 14, 15, 16 years old. Maybe that is within the job of Richard Hughes. That's his job to find hidden gems, bring them to the youth academy, and then once they feel like they've made the right progress, once they've had discussions with the youth coaches, that's when they move on. Who knows? Um, I'm intrigued to know if that is the case. That's probably something I'm going to try and look into. To be fair as well. But also, I don't support Arsenal, mate. Uh, Mateus said, place. Let's got a striker, Semenyo on the right. Okay, Cunha in the middle and Mbeumo on the left. Get Anderson in midfield, and we can't be stopped. So you're thinking of getting Anderson as well, all in one window. I don't think you'll get Anderson in January. Summer, maybe another discussion, but I don't think that is a realistic thing. But in terms of your setup there, not that I want to help you in terms of how United should play. But I wouldn't play Mbeumo on the left and Semenyo on the right. I'll actually flip it. Semenyo's better on the left, and then you've got Cunha playing on the right wing. Is more of a natural balance in that team. Cunha, in the number 10, that's all good. But what happens to Bruno Fernandes? Is he dropped deeper, playing a double pivot, or is he being sold? Because there has been rumors circling that he's got a release cost of around 60 million euros, and it's not for Premier League teams. It's exclusive to teams outside of England. So maybe he's on the move. Who knows? But yeah, I'm not too sure if Simone would move. But let's see what happens. Most of the United are shit. Simple as that. He lost against Grimsby months ago. Still this season, yeah, it's still this season. You can't disregard it. They said, bro, Cunha is the best number 10. Bruno plays as an 8 this season. You mean as a 6? Because if you're playing a double pivot, they're regarded as two number 6s. They're not number 8s. Um, Cunha as the best number 10, I wouldn't go that far, to be honest with you. Both, I mean, we'll use Semenyo at left wing back. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What's the project for Semenyo? Because you guys don't play wingers, you play with wing backs. So that's not a role that he would want to do. But let's see. We'll find out, I'm sure, in the coming weeks and in a day. Uh, what's this as a 6? Yes, but he goes into 8. Okay, so he transitions into an 8. So it's a hybrid role. But even still, I feel like this is the issue with United over the years. I feel like you always misprofile the players that you need for the coach's systems. It's more always about signing big name players or signing players that are hot right now. Like so many of the player that's probably hot because he's been scoring so many goals and he's in the top 5 in terms of the goal scoring charts right now. But you got to find a player that actually suits your game. And it doesn't look like Amrin wants to budge from playing a sort of a 3-4-2-1 type formation. So with that, you've got to find the right players. And I feel like in order for that system to work, wing backs is the key. I don't think your players at wing back are of the quality that is needed to progress. I do like the look of Dogu, the left wing back. I think he's a talented player. On the right, Dallow's not bad. But I feel like maybe if you had a different profile, it could be a different story. But hey, I'm not here to give you too many tips and advice on Manchester United. That's 100% true about profiling. Yeah, I might not be, you know, in support of United, but I know my football. So yeah, that's been quite evident over the years, and that's something that needs to improve. And I don't think it has. I think even the signings of Sesko. I mean, Sesko. We were linked to him in the summer. And during my transfer shows, I was praying that we didn't sign him. After selling Darwin Nunes, I feel like we would have just got another Nunes. He would have been a Nunes regen, honestly. So it's probably actually a lot worse than Nunes, if I'm being honest with you. And yeah, I was quite pleased that we didn't sign him in the end. Bought all those money over the years, and sure, is still playing centre back. Yeah, that's wild. That is wild that he's playing centre back. XT would have been so great instead of Sesko. Yeah, but I don't know if you guys would have been able to sell the project to Ekatike. Um, 'Cause obviously he needs to know the vision of the club, and of course, us being Premier League champions, that's always an easy sell when you're winning trophies on the pitch. So, money will talk for some players, but some players are more focused and driven by winning trophies and leaving a legacy behind them. So yeah, every player is different in this day and age. So let's move on. Um, And this player, a bit of a random one. He goes by the name of Oscar Mingueza. So he is a defender from Celta Vigo, plays as a right back. He's apparently attracting a lot of interest from a number of Premier League clubs. Liverpool are among those, um, trying to chase the former Barcelona youngster. And you've got the likes of Newcastle United and Brighton registering their interest. The situation with the player is that he has only 6 months remaining of his contract, so therefore he would be available on a free transfer at the end of the season. So my thoughts on the player, honestly, not familiar with him too much. I know he's a former Barcelona youngster, but I haven't watched much of him to be fair in live action. But based on the compilations that I've watched, defensively looks sound. Decent in one-on-one duels, decent technique, good crossing ability. I'll give him that. He's a set piece taker, can score free kicks, which is a bit of a bonus coming from a right back. But looking at the way he moves around the pitch, I feel like he may be a little bit lightweight for the Premier League, and I think he may struggle with the pace and physicality of English football. So I'm not so sure that this would be the right type of signing for us. Of course, if it's a free transfer, it's not a huge risk. but I don't want us to sign any players. I want players to come in that are of high quality and that would make an impact into our team. So for me, I think a team like a Brighton and a Newcastle would be better suited rather than Liverpool. Or maybe Liverpool's name has been thrown in a hat so the agent can generate some interest for his client. I feel like that could be the case, to be fair. Just got a few more comments here before we move on to the next rumor. They said, what do you think about Hoyland? He just won the Super Cup today and scored 4 goals against Juve Milan. I didn't even know he won the Super Cup today. I'm not surprised. When he was playing for Atalanta, I knew about him because he was banging the goals for the Danish national team. That's how my name or his name came to my attention. That's why I thought to myself, you know what, he's a decent striker. So when United signed him, I was a little bit surprised based on his profile in terms of his age. He was still a young and up and coming player. Didn't really establish himself at Atalanta, but was doing really well for the international team. And you also signed Zertsky that summer. So you signed two young strikers to fight for one spot. I thought was a bit of a risky move, to be fair. And I'm not surprised in terms of him flourishing in Syria, where he's plied his trade there previously, and he's banging the goal. He's playing for a team that are utilizing his skill set, and he's not being shoehorned to play a certain way. His style of play, he likes to play on the shoulder, likes to exploit defenses, play on the attack the chance at time, but also leave for in front of goal. With United, I feel like he was probably asked to be a bit more of a link up player between midfield and striker, and like had to drop deep and do things that wasn't natural to him. So because of that, you're never going to get a player to flourish in that manner. And I don't think he was given a run of games at United either. I feel like he had a few games, maybe he didn't score, and then he's out of the team. So with young players, you've got to give them opportunities. And having Zertsky there as well, for me, wasn't the right profile of strikers who've signed. What would have made sense was to sign an experienced striker and then a Hoyland. So then what you do, you'd have the experienced striker playing most games, but then Hoyland will come in and learn from that striker, and then that would have made him better equipped for the future. But that's not how it worked out. Um, Bo says, I love what Klopp said about the 30th of June when he was shown around in 2013. I think everyone turns good after leaving United. Unfortunately, that is a fact. Look at Scott McTominay. You know, I actually call him McSauce. I actually thought he was a decent player. I'm not gonna lie. And people thought I was just taking a piss, but I actually thought he was a decent player. So I'm not surprised that he's gone over to a league and has really flourished. Because he's playing his natural game. He's been given the respect there. He's loved by the Napoli fans. Oh my god, like they really appreciate him. At United, it was the complete opposite. They detested him. They did not like him at all. And before he was just any other guy. Put you in a tree like that at a club, you don't get the performances. So well done to him, for turning his career around and making himself into a very well-known player. Of course, was close to winning a Ballon d'Or. He was in the rankings there. Serie A Player of the Year, which is not an easy achievement, to be fair. So yeah, deserves all the plaudits, to be fair. Bo says, "What will you do if we play this awful type of football at home versus Wolves, Aussie?" I'm not expecting us to play champagne football. I've said that to you guys for quite a number of weeks. I don't enjoy watching Liverpool. That's the honest truth. I really don't. And of course, me being a content creator, I try and do watch alongs with you guys and stuff. Most of the time, I'm trying to keep myself awake, quite frankly. But they haven't been great watches. They've been very boring. No real imagination or no real intensity in terms of what we're playing. And that's a concern for me in the long term. But against Wolves, I don't believe Wolves have even notched up a win this season, have they? So it would be typical of Liverpool to, be the charity case and give Wolves their first win of the season. Um, yeah, that's not something that would be appreciated. Yeah, they've lost 15 times and drawn twice. So if we struggle to defeat Wolves, then questions will be raised on Onslaught. But right now, I've told you what I feel about Onslaught. I want him to not be the coach at Liverpool, but I think he's got the backing of the owners and he'll be here until the end of the season. But then I'm hoping next summer the Liverpool make the right move and appoint another coach to replace Armstrong going forward. So that's what I'm hoping and envisioning, and hopefully it will happen at some point. Mm. Others says Aussie without Salah, Isak, and Gakpo. Who are your starting forwards? Um, if we're playing with one striker, or as in a front three, um, my opinion is different to what Slot would do, right? So I'll give you two answers. Mine would be Ekatike up top, of course. Hayes on the left, Frimpong on the right, and actually no. So Bosley on the right and Verts in your number 10 role. And then have Frimpong come on, as an impact sub later in the game. Slot will do Verts on the left. McAllister is your number 10, Soboza is your right hand side, and then Ekatike up top. So the common denominator in those two lineups there is McAllister. I wouldn't start McAllister personally. I would have Chiesa in place of McAllister in that team, but we all know the issue there. There's an agenda with with the coach and Chiesa, so therefore I don't think Chiesa will play or start in upcoming games. Both says Rio, Hugo, Chiesa. Okay, that's interesting. I personally would still keep Sabozza in that role, even though I don't think he's as impactful there. But I don't think Jones deserves to be dropped, in my opinion. So Jones and Gravenberch in the double pivot, versus your 10. Chiesa on the left, Szoboszlai on the right, and then Ekitike up top. I feel like that still gives you a good balance. Ah, Bo, you just mentioned something I totally forgot about in terms of this coming fixture. I think Osman was just asking in general, but if it's based on this fixture, then he's not available. So then I would put Frimpong on the right hand side. So it would be Chiesa, Frimpong, Verts, Ekitike up top, and then you've got Jones and Gravenberch as your double pivot. Why can't the ball see the way we play? I don't know. It's not just the brand of football, unfortunately. It's the results. Are we getting points on the board? Are we challenging? Are we close enough to challenging? Right now, the status would be that we are close to challenging. We are closer to moving up the ranks or challenging for the top spot. So I think that's the viewpoint for the board and the current coach, which of course is Arne Slot. 10-0 loss versus Wolves, would that do it? Bloody hell. 10-0 loss? That is unimaginable. Yes, that not even 10-0. I'd do a little bit less. I'd say 3-0. If we lose to a team that haven't won a game this season, deserve to be sacked. That's how I look at it. So Boss is a was like suspended, Bradley injured. Uh, how long is Bradley out for? So who's starting on right back then? I would bring back Joe Gomez because Joe Gomez is fit to play this week. He was just rested in the previous game. Um, so yeah, Joe Gomez. Yeah, we've got. We'll hopefully get an update from Arne Slot in terms of the availability of some of the players because right now, yeah, we're struggling. We're struggling with numbers, that's for sure. Honestly, bro, generally looking scary as it stands. Yeah, it is, but you know, I feel like a lot of fans aren't on board to sign new players. I feel like we need to sign players, if I'm being honest with you. An attacker and a defender for me will do well. Um, Well, said no, Joe's out. I'm sure. No, so the last that I heard was that um he just wasn't fit enough to play against Tottenham, but should be available in the upcoming fixture, which will be Wolves, because the injury that he picked up was 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't as bad as they first feared. It was a slight knock, so he needed just a few days out. But they thought it was too soon to put him in the Tottenham game, so he should be available for this fixture. But this is Joe Gomez. We can't just throw him in, expect him to play the full 90. We'll need to utilize the squad a little bit. Look, if let's say Joe Gomez is not available, um, then you start with Frimpong. Well, traditionally you start with Frimpong on the right as the right back, and then Szoboszlai in that right midfield role. But knowing Slot, I think it'll be the other way around. I think he'll utilize Frimpong further up. Szoboszlai ends up being the makeshift right back, and then you've got Verts. I would play him as the number 10. I can see Slot playing Verts on the left, McAllister and then Ekatike. So, I as you can tell, I've got a different vision of how to utilize the players in our squad, and Slot has his own identity. So, it's something I don't agree with in terms of what he does. Um, but we'll have to see what team or what players are available for the upcoming fixture. Now, on to next rumor. They always bring this rumor up here and there, and I know it's not true, but I'm still going to mention it because it's a player that I really rate. And maybe by me mentioning his name, I put that positive energy out there in the universe, and maybe one day it becomes a reality. So the current rumor is that Liverpool have been alerted to the increased possibility that Inter Milan defender Bastoni could be open to a move to Anfield in 2026. They believe they have found a long-term successor for Van Dijk. At 26 years old, he's entering his prime of his career and is on track to become one of the best centre backs in the world. So my thoughts, I would believe he is one of the best centre backs in the world, personally. Secondly, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I would love to say that Bastoni is a realistic target, but quite frankly, and I'm going to be honest here, I don't think he is. I don't even see him leaving Italy um, anytime soon, or maybe he doesn't leave Italy altogether. Just 'cause I feel like he seems like he's very established there and he's very settled there. Um, the only way that move can happen is if Chiesa stays on board, because they are actually best mates off the pitch. And we've got another Italian, of course, he's injured right now, but in Leone. So we've already a couple of Italian players in the squad. That could be a good sort of indication that, if I go there, I'm going to have a couple of Italian teammates. I can, get used to the speaking the language, but I've got two players that I can rely on in terms of getting used to the league, the culture, and all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you go to any other Premier League club, there's barely any Italian players in the league. So that would give us an advantage to sign Bastoni. But then again, he would cost an arm and a leg. He would cost 80, 90 million pounds. Are we willing to spend that on a centre back? I don't think we are. I know, we're the cash cows. We got all the money apparently based on what we did in summer, but I don't think that would be the route to go. I feel like we've got to address quite a few positions next summer, personally, and therefore spending 90 million on one player is not the way I think the club should do business. Especially, like, I'm just gonna add another comparison, especially if another player like a Schlotterbeck is reportedly available for half the price, £45 million. Um, and I feel like he would be a better fit based on what I've seen. So with Bastoni, as much as I rate the player and as talented as he is, he's accustomed to playing the back three. I haven't seen him play in the back four that much. Whereas Schlotterbeck, I've seen him play in the back four, and he's solid as a rock. So he would give you that belief that he can come in and make a difference. Bastoni will need to adapt to new tactics and new defensive setups. So I'm not sure if that's going to be feasible. But at the same time, I don't think it's a realistic target either. But we're hoping and dreaming in regards to Bastoni possibly being a a target for us in the near future. Um, but also, why don't people I talk to think Slot is arrogant, Ozzy? What do you feel about that? Um, I don't know. A lot of fans just accept that that's his demeanor, so they don't see it or perceive it as arrogance. I feel like the people that are sort like myself and you and yourself, both, we're seen as arrogant because he has lost a lot of games this season, and because he's lost a lot of games this season, his demeanor hasn't changed. And when your demeanor hasn't changed and you're not holding yourself accountable for these defeats, we're seeing it as arrogance. So it's just the way how fans perceive it. If you vote for the manager or coach, you have a different way of looking at the way he talks, the way he communicates. But if you have sort of a negative viewpoint about someone, you only see it in a negative way. So it's just perception altogether. Um, we could be wrong, they could be right, and vice versa. So that's why I always feel like it's very important to just listen out to everyone's opinions because everyone is entitled to, you know, perceive things the way they do. Um, but yeah, the way I perceive it, I don't think he is the right coach for us going forward. Honestly, FSG just sold an ice hockey club. Aussie, remember? Yeah, we got some money in the bank, but I feel like they'll use that money on another asset, maybe another football club or an NBA team or I don't know, a golf competition or something like that. I don't know. I've heard different rumors over the months, so who knows what their money they're spending their money on. I don't know if it'll be on Bastoni, for example. Well, so do you think he has gone home raging or crying sometime this season, Ozzy? In terms of slot, no, not home raging. Although I'm not crying either. I feel like what he has done. He's definitely put players under the bus. In my opinion, I don't think he's managed players very well, and he doesn't seem to take accountability of when Liverpool have lost. So there's always blame on the opponent that that wasn't a real chance. And then he'll pinpoint certain players that should have done better in those moments. So from what I've spoken to a few people about this, like this is just a Dutch way. It's just a Dutch culture where they're very open, they're very transparent. Um, and because he has that kind of demeanor about him, we're seeing it the wrong way. Where, he's just not helping his cause because we're losing to Nottingham Forest, PSV, and like he's not really giving us the oh we're really disappointed, but we really need to like fix up and we're gonna do our best. We're not hearing that fight. We're not hearing that kind of talk, and because we're not hearing it, we just feel like he doesn't care. So no, he hasn't really cried. But it's kind of in between. He has shown a bit of like annoyance in terms of how teams have set up against us. So that would, I guess, equal to element of rage. Not quite as strong as rage, but frustration more so than not. But then to say we don't have the solution openly is ridiculous as well at the same time. And then in terms of the crying element, just moaning about team tactics and goals that are being scored aren't perceived as real goals because maybe we made an individual error or whatnot. So yeah, I feel like the way he's speaking right nowadays is not going well with me in terms of the level of communication. But hey, each to their own, I guess. Name some of the questions that just thought that could get you thrown out of the press conference, Ozzy. Um, right now, there's what when he was losing consecutive games, that's when you could really put it on him a bit more. But now, when you've not lost in the last six or so games, you can't even ask those questions about getting sacked because then you seem a bit of a weirdo, if I'm being honest with you. So sometimes in those kind of situations, you have to read the room. But I would ask him questions about, the mistreatment of Chiesa. What's the issue there? Why do you not start Chiesa? He's never started a game this season. So that'll get me kicked out straight away. I think, in my opinion. Um, and if I'm allowed to ask another question, maybe about his philosophy, because we've not really seen it this season. What is his style of play? What identity does he want to embed in this team? Because it's a different team to what was presented last year. So do you just inherit Klopp's team and went with whatever tactics he deployed? Um, and what have we done this year? Because it's clearly not working. And have you been kind of, have people found out about in terms of what you bring as a tactician? So I don't know. I don't know if we'll be allowed in that sort of environment, to be fair. But the Chiesa will be my top question because it's quite obvious. It's quite it's quite um, evident that there is an issue there. So I'll be like, straight up, what is your issue with Chiesa? What's your problem with Chiesa? And let's see what he says. He'll be like, no, I like him. He's a good. Because that's what he said in Milan when they asked him, like, what's the problem with Chiesa? They didn't ask him what's the problem with Chiesa. They were trying to allude to why Chiesa has not been selected and all that stuff because of the national team. And he's like, look, I like the guy, I like the player. And I'm just thinking, no, you don't. You clearly don't. You barely play him. So even just, I saw a clip the other day when Isak got injured. He was warming up and stuff, but he ran onto the pitch and checked up on Isak. And once he got reassurance that he seems all right, he's like talking to Verts, talking to another player, McAllister, I think it was. And it's like talking to him one to one, like, oh, come on, like, really encouraging them. Like that's a model professional right there. Despite being mystery like that, he's still got the personality to, empower his colleagues, and hopefully, they can improve. Maybe it's a few words of wisdom or just a bit of advice or some positivity, like, come on, you can keep going, guys, you can do it. Like things like that. He's doing a manager's job, but he's doing it, on the pitch where technically he's not even allowed on the pitch, but he still went out of his way to check on an injured player and then also speak to his teammates. So it's just for me, it's it's a mystery in terms of why Keynes is not getting any game time and why he's being mistreated so badly right now. I've heard like comments about it being the Plymouth game that really wound him up. But everyone was terrible in that game. There was a one single player that was good in that game. Elliot was terrible, but of course, Elliot's not even around, although he might come back next week. So who knows what the future holds for him? But there's clearly something there. I just don't know what it is, to be honest with you. One thing rages me, why does he always keep his one hand in the pocket, Ozzy? Wow, I've never noticed that, Bo. Yeah, you clearly don't like Arnold Slot. I feel like even if he smiles, that will piss you off. So, yeah, that's wild. Bo said, could you ask why he's so dull on the sidelines? I wouldn't ask him that, just because I know his personality is like that. So, yeah, certain coaches don't have that personality. They don't have that emotion, or they don't wear their heart on their sleeves, so they're not as energetic or vocal in that manner. Some coaches just like to just be tacticians, like Benitez used to be for us. He would sit there, just make notes and make one or two instructions, and that's pretty much it. So remember, not everyone's a young club. We were very, very fortunate to have a coach like him. But yeah, not everyone fits the shoes or fits the boots, unfortunately. Bo said Chiesa is a fantastic person, and Slot is not. Simple as that. Double D, we got Double D said Chiesa should be starting on Saturday, but Slot will find a way not to include him, even with Dom suspended. I've said it. That's why I was asked earlier on, what would my team be? And I've already given you two answers. One is with Chiesa, and one is without Chiesa, because I know the second is what's going to be the reality where he's not involved. And you've got so many attackers unavailable. Three attackers, Gakpo, Isak, and Salah. And he's still not getting game time. What can he do? What can this man do? And honestly, if I was Kaiser, I would leave Liverpool. Might not be what he wants to do, because I genuinely feel like he loves the club. I think he loves the fans, but he's adored by the fans, despite not being given the opportunities that he deserves. And I don't think he'd want to leave. a huge institute like Liverpool Football Club because he knows what it means to represent the club. You know, this was evident when he joined on on his blog when he first signed for the club. So yeah, it's frustrating. Honestly, if he doesn't start Chiesa first of all, we have to fly that plane over Anfield again. Enough is enough. Slot out. We might have to. We might have to. We might have to do something special for Chiesa. Put a banner at Anfield or something because he's just getting mistreated right now. Also, well, why is the greatest man always the energetic ones though? Klopp, Pep, Mourinho, Inzaghi, Enrique. Yeah, and he said that is a big sign. Yeah, it is, but of course you still have different personalities. Just like in life, if you have a group of friends, not everyone in your circle of friends will be the same. You know, everyone will be different. One will be a bit quiet, one will be a bit loud, one will be energetic, one will be the life of the party. So it's just different personalities. So doesn't mean one's better than the other. It's just like everyone's different, everyone's unique in their own ways. And that's how it is from a managerial point of view as well, in my opinion. Okay, next winner. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this player, but there have been rumors linking us with this young up and coming player, and his name is Ayub Bouadi. Now, the current rumor is that Arsenal have made contact with the Lille midfielder in regards to a £39 million move. He's just signed a new deal, which doesn't help. But Arsenal want to know if a move is completely off the cards. You've got the likes of City, United, Liverpool also interested in the Frenchman. Um, and they have been, scouting the player for some time. So my thoughts on the player, I've not watched him live too many times, but from what I've seen, I like the look of Buadi. Looks like a silky player on the ball, defensively sound, really great at interception. He'll chase players and just find a great way of taking the ball away from them. Tenacious off the ball, progressive with his dribbles and passing. Uh, Quite honestly, if he continues to progress and develop the way he's doing right now, he could become a top player in the future and a top player for the French national team. Look, I would be very pleased if we signed for Liverpool. Only concern would be the pressure to deliver right away. The best thing would be to sign him as a squad player and allow him to transition into a player that starts week in, week out. So, if, like on paper, you say Gravenberg and McAllister would have been our first two picks. Having Buadi as a bench player alongside Jones would be the right balance, in my opinion. But there's a lot of clubs after him. Uh, so if there is any chance of a move, Liverpool need to act fast and be ahead of the curve. As I mentioned, he's available for £39 million, which is not a lot in this day and age. I know he's 18 years of age. If you're not sure into his profile, he's a CDM, but can play as a number eight, a box to box midfielder as well. Personally, I would like to sign a player like Buadi, uh, but I don't think this is realistic. Number one, he's just signed a new contract. And for me, for his development, it makes the perfect sense to continue to play for Lille, learn his trade. There is no rush to leave France so soon. Continue to grow, continue to develop. And once you've touched 2021, then you're able to move on and play for one of the European giants. Because I feel like at that time, he would have become more established as a player. So Liverpool need to continue scouting him, continue to monitor his progress, because he could be a viable option in the future. And look, let's say Leo are like, "Do you know what? We don't mind. We will cash in on him 45 million pounds. Then Liverpool need to go all in and try and get him. But at the same time, he can't just be the only midfield signing that we would make in the window. I still believe we would need to sign another centre midfielder, someone that has more experience that gives you a better balance in the squad. So this is me thinking a bit more long term. But in terms of the profile of the player, I do like him. I think he's very talented. If you're not familiar with him, do look out for him. Whether he's got French football on TV or Lille are playing quite a bit. Um, in the Europa League. So definitely a player that you can look out for once they're playing there. Um, so yeah, a player that I think has a big future ahead of him. Bo says, I thought it was Lazar Markovic. I was like, do you know what? Looking at it now, I kind of see a little bit. He does have a little bit of a resemblance there. Lazar Regen, God forbid, he's a CDM, so he's not a flamboyant right winger as it was touted when we signed him. So yeah, he's not nothing like Markovic. Now, this is slightly off transfers. Um, I'm sure Ball will be happy about this. And this is in regards to Steven Gerrard. So he had an interview with TNT Sports, I think, as part of Ali McCoy's program. I think it was called Ali's Social Club or something along those lines. And quote unquote, this is what Gerrard said about returning to Liverpool. Gerrard said, I'll be brutally honest with you. I'd help Liverpool in any department at any minute of every day. I'd help them with anything. I don't want Arsenal to lose his job. I want him to fix this and turn it around and make Liverpool great. I was bouncing all over the city 4 or 5 months ago when Liverpool won the league. I'm a Liverpool fan. I want the best for Liverpool. But if Liverpool need me in any department at any time, I will be there for them. So that's positive words, of course, from Gerrard. Um, so my question is, would we require Gerrard in any shape or to any sort of capacity? Maybe as a coach one day. But I feel like what Gerrard should do is get back into management. He needs to stay active because I feel like if he's at a different club, he's able to learn and grow as a manager. And then one day, once he's a bit more established and he's got maybe some trophies under his name as a manager, then he becomes a more of a stronger contender to be a Liverpool manager in the future. Right now, the only route would be as an interim coach, in my opinion. Um, of course, I've said it before. If Slot was to be sacked and we couldn't find the long-term manager now, give Gerrard the job until the end of the season, and then we take it from there. I still stick by that, but I don't think that's the reality. So it's good to hear Gerrard speaking very positively about the club and saying that he would be willing to help them in any shape or form. But in terms of it being in the near future, I don't think it's going to be an option. But that's just my thoughts on that altogether. And the final story of today, which was mentioned earlier in the show by Ozan, is regarding Mohamed Salah. Now, Mohamed Salah scores the last minute winner to give Egypt their first win in the competition. Salah played really well today. You can see that he's the playmaker of the team, whipping in some fantastic crosses inside the box. I still feel like he can play that role for us as in a Liverpool shirt, as long as we have an aggressive left winger who's more of a goal scorer, like Semenyo or Barcola. Just putting those names out there if you if you weren't aware. Uh, but in terms of the game, Dube opened the scoreline with a left-footed finish for Zimbabwe. Then Marmoush equalised with a smashing shot from the left channel to make it 1-1. And in the 91st minute, the Egyptian king produces the clutch moment as he scores with a neat finish inside the box to make it 2-1. And look, great opening win there for Egypt. And I hope you're watching Jamie Carragher. You're probably not, as you've disrespected AFCON in the past. And I'm really hoping, I'm rooting for Egypt to win AFCON. I've got a lot of friends that are from Nigeria, and I've got a lot of friends that are Ghanaian, but unfortunately, Ghana are not in the AFCON right now. But I'm rooting for Salah. I want Salah to win AFCON, so he can say that he's actually won a trophy at international level and shove it in Jamie Carragher's face. That's what I want, if I'm being honest with you. But look, well done to Mohamed Salah, and hopefully he does well in the upcoming fixture, which is against South Africa on Boxing Day. Uh, but that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's give my shouts to everyone. So shout out to Ozan, shout out to Bo, shout out to Mateus, the United fans. So be yourself for coming on. Hopefully you subscribe to the channel. I know you're not a Liverpool fan, but feel free to show your support. Appreciate your engagement today. Uh, and also shout out to Double D for your comments earlier on. Appreciate you guys always. Now, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, tomorrow nothing scheduled, but if there's any sort of transfer news that is circulating, we can try and make that happen. Um, Maybe an FC26 show is on the cards. It'll just depend on my availability in the evenings. But yeah, the best thing to do, honestly, is hit that notification bell so you know exactly what time the live streams will begin, and then you'll know the topic. If there's a lot of transfer talk, then I'm sure I'll be doing a lot more transfer shows with it. We've got about a week left before the window opens, so you know the rumors are going to be circulating as the days go on, and then we'll be back on Friday. We'll do the match preview. So we'll watch the Arnold Slot conference in the morning, um, and then I'll make my notes, and then we'll talk about the conference, press conference in the match preview, and then we'll try and predict the lineups as well. We'll get more clarity into who's available. Is Joe Gomez ready to come back into the first team? Um, what's the situation with Chiesa? Is he available? Because of course he was sick for some time, but he has been in the squad to be fair, hasn't he? So let's see what the issues are. Let's see who is available for the upcoming fixture. Of course, Conor Bradley, we don't know the extent of his injury. Is he available? Only time will tell, and hopefully we'll find out on Friday. And then, in regards to the watch along, we will do a watch along on Saturday. The match is a 3 p.m. kickoff, so we'll go live just before 3 p.m. And then we'll also do a match reaction show later in the evening. So although it's a festive week this week, I will try and do as much content as possible. But yeah, hopefully we'll do some more shows. And yeah, feel free to hit that notification bell so you know exactly what time those shows will begin. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.